The best of Money Matters. The Big Story.
Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Hongbin Jeong. There's been growing interest and some concern over the recent discovery of a new bat coronavirus, and it's called HKU5-CoV-2. Now, while experts say it is not an immediate public health threat, the fact that it can enter human cells using the ACE2 receptor, the same pathway as the SARS-CoV-2, has raised important questions. Now, could this virus evolve into something more dangerous? What does its discovery tell us about the ongoing risk of emerging infectious diseases, and how can we better prepare for potential future outbreaks? Well, to help shed some light on what we know so far about this new virus, its potential risks, and what it means for global health, joining us today is Dr. Leong Hoe Nam, who's a senior consultant of infectious disease physician at Rophi Clinic. Hi, Dr. Leong. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us there.
Thank you for joining us. Dr. Leong, could you tell us more about the HKU5-CoV-2? What exactly is it, and why has it gained attention despite no known human infections?
It is yet another virus, and it can infect the human body, and it's really reminiscent of what we had earlier on with the SARS-CoV-2. But it is a coronavirus, but it is actually quite a very distant relative, not quite the same, but enters the same way. In short, it can create another COVID-like situation, but from a distant relative of SARS-CoV-2. So that's worrying, that's scary, because it's deja vu over again, from bad pneumonias to deaths, and then, of course, vaccinations as we try to overcome it. The only good news is it is a distant relative. So some of the things that worked for the first virus, the SARS-CoV-2, will actually work for this one as well. And for some of the medications that worked for SARS-CoV-2 will actually work for this, which means we will be in a much better situation if it were to strike. Not to say that it will strike, it perhaps will strike, but it is just the scientists doing their job. What are they doing? Clearing what's in the backyard. If you don't realize, this virus has been found on bats, found in the caves, and it means it can actually spread out to humans again. It may not be now, but maybe later. But it's always good to know what's in our backyard so they can get ready for it should it happen.
I see. But despite its ability to, bind to human cells, experts have stated that it doesn't, currently pose a public health threat. But why should we then still be concerned about this looming virus?
There's always a threat. There's always a chance they can mutate. Now, you should rather ask, why aren't the scientists worried? You see, there is a species jump. The virus is actually adapted to the bats. It needs to jump over to the humans. Even though it can attach itself to the ACE2 receptor, it's still quite a big jump. It doesn't replicate very, very well. Once it adapts itself, changes and gets the right mutations, it will one day become more proficient in infecting. And that's what happened at the end of 2019 at the beginning of COVID-19. When the virus adapted and then could spread more easily. So what I'm trying to say is, at this point in time, it's not well adapted. It may infect human beings, but it's unlikely to spread further. But if we don't watch it, and then we are less careful with the first case, it can in turn spread on very quickly and become another COVID-19.
I see. So what would need to happen then for this virus to become a true pandemic threat? Are there certain mutations scientists are currently watching out for?
They will be calculating and what the mutations are needed. And this is where it becomes a little bit touchy. The virus, they need to understand the gain of function. How many more gains of functions or adaptations that would be needed. And sometimes you actually have to create some of these gains of functions to understand what are the steps needed. It is dangerous because you can actually have a laboratory leak, and in turn, this virus that has this new gain of function could spread more easily. I suspect it will still be quite at least 3 to 5 more mutations at the very least, I suspect, where before the virus can take on and become so active. What can happen in the natural world is this. A human being gets infected, And likely, if the person's immunity is poor, such as he's on steroids, he is on immunosuppressive agents, it will create a more permissive environment for the virus to mutate and adapt. In such a permissive environment, more and more mutations occur, and in turn, a new strain will form such that it becomes very well adapted to human beings. Then this individual just needs to meet somebody else, such as in a big metropolitan city, and the virus can spread on very quickly. Every new infection is an opportunity to adapt and get more new mutations. So, first person for the virus, the person must have poor immunity, and they need to meet in the local metropolitan city and small.
I see. I mean, this virus was discovered in swabs taken from a species of bats in China. Now, previous research has shown that bats are natural reservoirs for, many coronaviruses, including the ones that caused SARS and MERS. How common is it for viruses to spill over into humans? I mean, what factors determine whether a virus like the new virus that has been discovered could evolve into a real danger for humans?
Actually, many of the viruses which we know of came over from the animal kingdom. Measles, for example, came over from the animals, chickenpox as well, and many other different viruses. Something happened in the past, a catastrophic event where a person was infected from an animal, and thereafter it spread on to other people, and we have our own human strains of it. So it's not surprising that bats can spread this to us again. You might be asking, why are there so many bats problems? It's because human beings and mammals is one of the first to break, not the first to break off the mammalian chain. In other words, many cell types that are common to us both. So the virus would tag on to the bats and use the bats to train themselves, which are actually very similar cell types to us. Number two, the bats have a very interesting immunology. They have a very permissive way of allowing the virus to live inside them, and it doesn't need to get rid of them. So it's tolerant of many viruses that are living inside. And when the bats go out hunting for food for their babies, they poop everywhere. When bats poop, it lands on another animal, it's on a person, lands on another person's breathing. In turn, you can actually get such an infection. And of course, cave hunters, hello. When you go to cave hunting, you're going to meet these people. Nowadays, the scientists were isolated, they found themselves with full PPE gear, with the N95, with the gowns, and go in so that any of the viruses. But cave hunters, no, they just go in there in their crew, in their 2,000 looks, and they could actually breathe in germs and virus back to the society.
I see. Well, interestingly, though, Dr. Leong, lab tests suggest that antiviral treatments effective against SARS-CoV-2 may also work against this HKU5-CoV-2. How promising is this finding, and could it mean that existing COVID-19 treatments might provide a head start if this virus ever became a concern?
Yes, absolutely. I thank God, first of all, we had medications for SARS-CoV-2, and because virus as well as SARS-CoV-2, they're distantly related, similar machinery. That similar machinery allows us to use like an old drug for SARS-CoV-2 to treat this. So that's good news, and a good chance you can be interested to know that at least 4 to 6 other coronaviruses that have been isolated even before SARS-CoV-2. And similarly, the medications which we use, the antiviral drug which was for SARS-CoV-2, works for these other coronaviruses as well. We don't hear much about it because they tend to cause very mild illnesses, and we don't require treatment for most of them. But when the push comes to shove, we do have medications available for this new coronaviruses simply because they are very, very similar. They have a shared similar parents back in the past.
I see. Well, beyond this new virus here, experts warn that coronaviruses are circulating widely in bat populations and that many have the potential to infect humans. And some scientists even argue that instead of focusing on this new virus, we should be more concerned about coronaviruses that already infect humans, which cause a common cold, but can also lead to pneumonia. Do you agree with this perspective, Dr. Leong? And does this mean that these lesser-known coronaviruses are a bigger threat than newly discovered bat viruses?
I think more knowledge in both fields, in both areas, will be very, very good. We need to know what's happening now in our own situation, in our front yard, our front-facing problems. We also need to know what's in our backyard, because what's in the backyard may come to haunt us later. So it is important to do research on both, because the existing coronaviruses, there's interestingly an HKU1 coronavirus. It's also discovered by the Hong Kong University, hence they call it HKU1 versus this is HKU5. They can actually cause quite severe viral pneumonia in us as well. So I think it's good if we can do more research to understand more about these viruses, not just in front of our front yard, what we are facing every day, but in the backyard, what's in the case or the other bats as well.
I see. But are we doing enough, global surveillance to track these viruses before they pose a real risk? And what should be done to improve early detection?
Absolutely not. We wish we could do more. In part, you need to have dedicated scientists. There's a lot of resources spent to going down there to look at the viruses and to understand the viruses. Even if you have identified one such virus, you must have the proper laboratory facilities to house them with all the security measures, because that laboratory could become a bioterrorist weapon as well. So we could do a lot more for this. And going forward, I think we need to spend more money research into all these viruses. But of course, research money is drying up. Research money is challenging. And research money, unfortunately, doesn't mean you will always get a result when you go into the bats. Now, this researcher has been working, or the bat woman, as we call her, has been researching on bats for at least 10 years. She has multiple publications on bat virus work, but only once in a while she has something that's so startling like this. So a lot of money went in, but not much scientific paper. Sometimes the sponsors will ask, is it worth the effort?
I see. Well, Dr. Leong, before we let you go here, if this new virus were to spill over into humans, what would be the critical steps in containing it before it spreads globally? I mean, what could we learn from the COVID-19 pandemic?
That's a great question. Number one, a lot more sharing. When one country has a problem, everyone needs to know about this. The moment the virus has been isolated, everyone must work together to get the vaccines quickly and then to develop test kits and to develop medications for approval rapidly. We have technologies now to allow us to make the vaccines quickly, and that should be made cheaply and available to everyone, not just a rich nation, because every nation in the world will march at the pace of the slowest nation. Number 4, we need to have masks ready now. I think all of us should have masks ready in the house. We have learned that pandemics may occur anytime. In the last 10 years, we have at least 3 to 4. From H1N1 in 2009, we had MERS. Then, of course, there's monkeypox in addition to SARS-CoV-2. It looks as if for sure there will be another pandemic. It's like life is certain on a few things. Life, death, taxes, and the next pandemic. So we must be ready for them. And it's going to be the same playbook as previous with SARS-CoV-2. Masking, handling, keeping a social distancing. And with that, we can all quickly battle the virus until the vaccines come along, take vaccinations, and protect ourselves going forward.
I see. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Leong, for your time and your insights today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That was Dr. Leong Hoe Nam, who is a senior consultant of infectious disease physician at Rophi Clinic. This has been The Big Story with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.